All right, let's get started. Welcome to the webinar with Everflow. Today we have a pretty good turnout. The main topic of today will be to cover the Google Ads integration, which was recently released. Thank you for your first question. This webinar will be recorded and will be published on our help desk as well. We are focusing on the new version today. So the Google Ads integration was already released a while ago. This is the second version that we have released recently. This version will allow partners and external companies to connect their Google Ad account to the Everflow partner account. This webinar is targeted for partners and external companies who want to connect their Google account to the Everflow partner account. So that's the main focus of today's webinar. But if you are an existing Everflow client and you want to connect your internal Google account to Everflow, the integration steps are the same. So the only difference is in actually which UI you access to set up the integration. So if you're a client, you will be connecting via the client UI of Everflow to set up the integration. And if you are a partner, you'll be using the Everflow partner UI to connect and set up the Google integration. At any point during this, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the Q&A box, and we'll get back to you on those questions at the end of this webinar. And if we run out of time and we have not managed to cover those questions, we'll make sure to get in touch with you directly and answer those questions. Great, let's get started. A quick introduction to me. I'm Teja. I'm based here in Amsterdam. I previously was a media buyer on Facebook and Google, and that's kind of why I'm excited to do this webinar for the new integration that we have. All right, let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about the overview of what the integration does, some use cases and benefits, the actual integration itself, how to set that up, and some frequently asked questions. And then, of course, the very exciting Q&A towards the end. All right, let's start with the actual overview of the Everflow integration. So what is the Everflow Google integration doing? It actually is two main things that it accomplishes. The first thing it does is it tracks the clicks that come from your Google Ad activity into Everflow. And we use the tracking template functionality within the Google Ad account to essentially update the tracking template with the Everflow parameters. And this automatically allows a user's click from a Google Ad to be tracked in Everflow. So for example, let's say a user is clicking on an ad on Google. We have these parameters that are in a Google Ad that allow Everflow to track. So the user clicks on the ad, they get taken to the brand's landing page. And on this landing page, Everflow has the JavaScript for tracking the click. And this JavaScript creates the click in Everflow for this particular offer and partner combination. And that also stores the Google click ID against that Everflow click. And that's how we know that this particular click from this particular offer and affiliate and this particular Google click ID actually converted or did some action, right? So that's the click tracking part. That's the main action that the integration allows us to do. Additionally, on this click, what we can track is additional information about that Google campaign. So for example, what placement was used, what keyword was used, which campaign did that click come from. So all those parameters can be passed through in this tracking link and sent to Everflow and stored in Everflow along with the click. So that way, in the reporting of Everflow, you can always see, okay, this was the click, this was the placement information for that click, this was the keyword used before the user clicked, and all that rich Google data can be seen in the reporting of Everflow. The next part of the integration, what it does is actually conversion tracking. So this means that when Everflow tracks a conversion or an event at our end, we can trigger that information to the connected Google account and campaign. So what that really looks like is when a user is on the brand page and does the conversion, essentially that action is captured in Everflow because of the conversion JavaScript. It can be a purchase, a sign up, a lead, whatever action. Once that comes through and is created in Everflow as a conversion or event, essentially because of the Google integration, we can then forward that information to the relevant Google conversion action. And that conversion action is generally tied to a specific campaign and also to a specific ad or keyword combination during the setup of Google ad campaigns. Yeah, so that's a very general high-level overview. So it allows us to track clicks from Google into Everflow, and it allows us to then fire conversions and events from Everflow to the Google account. Let's move on to the actual use cases, right? So what is the benefit of using this integration? So optimizing, the first one really is allowing you as a media buyer to actually optimize your Google ads based on the value of the sale of the purchase items. And this is really powerful because you can build high value, low value audiences in Google and use Google's algorithm to actually bid more effectively. So essentially, what would happen is when a user is on a brand website and it purchases a product, not all the products have the same value. For example, they can purchase a product that is $100 in value. They can also purchase a product that could be $1,500 in value. Both of these are not the same. One is a user that is a low value user, and the other one is a higher value user. And you can segment that based on the value of the purchased item in Everflow. You can assign it to like a conversion or event, but you can also, if it can all be tied to one conversion or one event. And you can then send that information to Google and assign the conversion value so that Google can use its algorithm to qualify, okay, this was a user that had a very high conversion value. This one was not such a high conversion. Another step you can do is you can also have two different conversion actions, and then say, okay, if the value is $100, then trigger the conversion to this conversion action. If the value was less than this, then don't trigger it to that, but to another conversion action. So you can set it up in a more flexible way. And the goal is you're able to identify and build these high value, low value audiences for Google so that they can optimize it to the best for their algorithm and strategies. Yeah. The other use case we have, which is commonly used, is really to optimize based on product type or the type of action that happens, right? So typically a user would purchase two different types of product, maybe shoes and maybe TV. And the value of these two different actions the user does is not the same. So you can set up, again, the logic to look at the type of product that was sold or any action that the user did. You can configure the conversion script, and then depending on the name of the product or the type of the product, you can set up rules that say, okay, this conversion should belong to this particular conversion action that belongs to this campaign, or this particular product type should be attributed to this other conversion action that goes to this other campaign. And this targeted level of detail you can control because you can actually configure the conversion script to actually track those different product types and then pass it through to Google to better optimize their buying strategies. All right. That's another popular use case. And then the third use case, which our marketing team here at Everflow has used quite often, is based on tracking different life cycle stages of the leads. So let's say you work with a CRM like Salesforce or HubSpot. You're able to like map different stages within that CRM. Now, not all the stages that the user goes through is valuable. So let's say only on this third stage, the user is converted into a payable user for you. Until that point, they're just a lead. They're not actually a full-time user. So you are able to set up those 3 different stages in your CRM, and you're also able to pass those stages to Everflow. And Everflow has also, again, the ability to connect each of those stages to a different conversion in Google, and then attribute a different value to each of those conversions. So then you can segment a user based on how many of those stages that they went through, and if one of them was a high value or a low value conversion effectively. So you can tie your CRM data directly into your Google bidding strategies. All right, so those are some of the more usual cases. If you have another use case you would like to set up and you are curious about how you would do that, you can always reach out to the Everflow support team and we can always walk you through that. All right, moving on to the actual setup. So before we do the actual integration, what we need to do is actually make sure that your Google Ads account has conversions set up correctly. So most media buyers that are on Google already have their conversions set up, but just to make it very clear, I'm going to switch my screen. I'm now in a test account that I just created. And essentially what we want to do is we want to go into this tools and settings section and conversion section here. And this is the Google Ads conversion overview. Here is where you have to set up your conversions before you do the integration in Everflow. Essentially what you want to do is you want to say a new conversion action. You want to say it's an import, so it's coming in through a data source like this, and it's coming from clicks. And once you hit continue, you can define what this action is. So is it, for example, a purchase, or is it a lead? Is it a contact? What kind of an action it is? It can also be just something else. It does not have to be one of these, but it's just the default ones that Google has. So let's say for now that we're setting up a purchase. Now, you can give this a name and call it purchase or sale, however you would like. And then you can choose to have the same value for each of these. So purchase can have the same value, or you can say the dynamic value. That means you can have a different value that comes through for each of these purchases. Everflow through the integration will take the value that is the payable amount to the partner as the amount of this conversion, and can pass it through. And essentially, you can choose to use that, or you can say, I want to set a default value. I don't want to do a dynamic one. You can then choose to have the count to be on every action. So this is typically done for purchases, so every purchase is counted, or you can do a one-time action, which is generally for leads or for more like subscription one-time paid actions. And then once you do that, you can simply hit create and continue, and the conversion will be created. Once the conversions are created, we can actually proceed to set up the integration in Everflow. So let's go to the Everflow account. I'm going to log into the partner UI for this. So this is the UI that partners and external companies working with Everflow clients have access to. And essentially, I will navigate to they will have to navigate to the company settings and integration. So this is where the connection between the Everflow partner account happens with the Google account. So first step is to authorize the connection between Everflow and their Google account. And I've already done the authorization here, but for new connections, essentially here, there'll be a step that says like this, configure, and you simply click on it. And then a pop-up comes where you have to add in your Google email address and password, and that just authenticates the connection. And once that's done, you will see the same screen here which says configure, and then you'll be landing into this overview, which is just the connection, all the connections that you have from Everflow partner account to your Google account. Now, Let's go through one of these connections. I've already set it up, but it's pretty much the same steps. So the first step of the integration is essentially connecting it to a specific manager account and a specific campaign, essentially within your Google Ads. So this is information that we automatically pull. You don't have to type anything in here. You simply select which account you want to connect with. Once you do the Google authorization in the step before, our integration will pull and show you all the relevant accounts that are available for the connections. And you simply pick the one that you want to work with. The next step here is the account settings. Essentially, you can choose to allow the integration to update the tracking or not. The easiest would be if you would allow it. That way it's all automatic and it happens at an account level, which means that the tracking template at the account level will be appended with all the information that you add in here. Let's look at now exactly what parameters will be we are going to use. So the first one really is the Google Click ID. So this is mandatory for the integration to work. Essentially, what this means is that you have to tell us which parameter you want to use to track the Google Click ID. And I always suggest to use the GCL ID here because it's a very simple, straightforward setup. The reason you have access to the sub 2, sub 5 here as well is sometimes clients want to see the Google Click ID in Everflow reporting. So they want to see like breakdown of Google Click IDs in the reporting, and then you can say pass the Google Click ID in sub 2. But that's a pretty rare use case. So most of the time you would want to use just the Google Click ID yourself. And you would just keep this as GCLID. Keyword macro parameter, this also I highly recommend to use because this will allow you to see in Everflow in the sub 1 column what keyword was used in Google for that click. And you can work with the Everflow client and define one sub parameter to use for all your activity. That way, you don't have to like keep switching between the different integrations to use sub 1 for one campaign and sub 2 for another campaign. So keep things simple. Work with the Everflow client or the brand that you're working with and say, okay, sub 1, I will always use sub 1 for keywords. And then you can also choose which offer these clicks and these sales that you're promoting to in Everflow that you're going to associate this integration with. So this is the account level setting, which means this is assuming that you're working with one offer and all your Google activity is tied to that one offer. But I think in reality, a lot of you will be using different campaigns, which is the next setting where you'll be choosing different campaigns to promote for this one particular client that you work with. And that will go into the next step. So moving on to the other parts in this integration. Here, these tracking parameters are essentially also highly recommended. What that means is if you want to see in the sub 3 of Everflow, what placement was used. So then you can use the placement macro from Google like this. And in the tracking links, automatically, whatever placement was used from Google display buying, that will be passed through into the sub 3 spot. And this is again shown in the reporting of Everflow. Similarly with sub 4, if you're having multiple creatives, you can use the creative macro from Google to indicate exactly which creative was used for that click. And also the campaign ID. So if you're running multiple campaigns, you can also pass through the campaign ID through in the sub 5. Again, as much as possible, try to use the same sub values across multiple integrations. That way, you do not have to run into the issue of trying to like check different sub values for different data points. Okay, once you've set this up, you will go to the next step, which is the campaign settings. So campaign settings is when you want to run multiple Google campaigns and also it's related to multiple Everflow offers. Now, right now, this account that I've connected does not have any campaigns. That's why you saw that little error at the bottom. But if you do have campaigns running successfully in your Google accounts, when you click on this, you should see all the campaigns that are available. And then you can say, okay, this campaign that I'm running belongs to this particular offer in Everflow. And then if you're running another campaign, you can select the second campaign in here, and then you can select the second offer in here. And that way you can set up multiple connections to multiple campaigns and offers in one integration, which is pretty powerful. Yeah, moving on to the next step, which is conversions. Conversions are the concept where you map the conversions in Everflow to the conversion actions in Google. So that's why we had to set up the conversions first in Google Ads before, because this step would not be possible if we had not created conversions in your Google Ads. So let's see how a mapping looks like. I'm just going to edit this. And as you can see, you can have multiple mappings in here. But essentially, a conversion map is essentially, these are the conversions, the purchase one we just set up. So these are the conversions in Google. And these are the conversions in Everflow. And you're essentially saying, okay, this maps to this. And in this case, if we want to map, let's say, the purchase, and we want to map this to this particular offer and this particular event, then that's kind of the most basic of the connections for this conversion. Now you can say actually that I want to have a different value, right? So you can make a dynamic one, or you can say I want to have a fixed value. And most of the time you would like to just keep it dynamic, because then you can use the information from Everflow and dynamically pass like a value that changes per lead or per purchase. But sometimes you say, no, I want to have a fixed value, and then you just write the actual value that you want. Yeah, it's most likely that you just keep it dynamic, and why not? Because that's more powerful. And here in the apply traffic rules, this is where the additional rules can be set up. Now, some of these additional rules are, these are optional. You don't have to use it, but you can use it to make some advanced rules. And I'm just gonna walk through some advanced rules examples. You can set up a rule that doesn't fire the lead event whenever the user's email comes from like Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo. So you can do like a exact match, or you can do like a contains and say, okay, if this user's email is containing something like Hotmail, I don't want to fire this action to Google. And this is typically used when like if some leads are some kind of emails are not to accepted or not to be counted, you can set up rules like that. You can also do this based on like a value of the product name. So for example, if you're passing product name in ADV2, you can say if the product is shoes, then yeah, I don't want to send this to Google, or I want to send it to Google only if it is shoes, nothing else. So you can set up rules like that in here. You can also create a rule based on value. So you can say, if the amount is greater than 200, only then send this conversion to Google. If it is not, then the conversion will simply not be sent to Google. Or you can set up a rule that says, if the conversion is greater than 200, then send it to this particular conversion action. If the conversion is less than 200, then send it to another conversion action, right? So you can set up like a tier for which conversion action gets attributed based on the value of this amount in here. And that's why we also love like multiple conversion mapping in here. So you can play around with these rules and then see what makes sense for a business. But again, conversion mapping is like very, very simple. You do not have to use these rules. These are just optional, right? At its core, it connects a conversion action in Google to a conversion action in Everflow, and that's it. And most likely you want to keep it dynamic. That's the basic setting. All right. Once this is created, you can hit save, and then essentially you will get to this overview, which is the overview of the actual integration. So the integration gives you a little bit of an overview of the setup, all the parameters that are going to be used. And then also, if you had campaigns, it will also list the campaigns in here that are connected, and also the conversion actions that are connected as well. And this is something that you can always edit. So you can always go back in here and edit the settings. Unlike Facebook and TikTok and other integrations out there, this is all you need to do as a partner. So when you buy media on Google, it actually is much simpler. You do not have to set up a postback additionally. You do not have to take any other additional steps. Once the integration is done, we automatically are tracking and using the tracking templates to track the correct parameters in Google for Everflow. And then the conversion tracking is automatically sending the conversions based on this mapping in here. So that's the main difference between buying or using the Facebook Everflow integration versus the Google Everflow integration. Whereas in Facebook, you would, after doing the integration, have to go into this postback section and create postbacks. And in this case, you would not. This is already done. All you need to do is essentially start running some test traffic and start seeing the activity tracked in Everflow. So once this is done, you can also, we also added one additional step in here, which is the log. So every Google integration has now this log overview that records the actual conversions that are fired from Everflow to Google. You can select what date range you're looking for. You can also use a filter to look up specific Google Click IDs in here, and you'll be able to see the different rows of conversions that were sent to Google from Everflow in this overview. Yeah, that's the end of the integration step. So once the integration is set up, how does it look like in reporting? So we have some example reporting data in here. So this is an example from our marketing team. This is a campaign that they run using their Google Ad account. And essentially, they were able to break down based on country, sub-5, and device type in here. And what they noticed was that they were getting a lot of conversions from countries like outside of their targeting. And this is because Google essentially has this interest-based targeting. So if somebody's interested in the country that you are promoting in, or let's say they're interested in the country that you have included in your campaign, then they're also shown the ad. And you can see that there were a lot of initial conversions from these countries, but not really the actual payable conversions at the end. So this was a clear sign that they had to block from these particular countries any clicks, any ads being shown, because they were not actually being profitable on the end conversions that were the payable conversions. Similarly with placements as well. So if you're running a display campaign, you can see the placement information, exact websites where the display ads were shown. And again, the same situation, you see a huge number of initial conversion points coming through, but very few events being recorded. So that is a clear sign that this is something you want to exclude from your display campaign. And also with mobile and PC, a lot of initial conversions coming through, but the conversion rate on desktop is way higher than on desktop. So this main takeaway was to actually optimize and focus on desktop only for this particular campaign. Similarly, you can do more. I'm just gonna click through this one and get to the next example in here. So this was the next example that you can do, which is passing the Google Ad keywords into Everflow. So if you have multiple keywords in here, you can also see per keyword what the initial conversion actions were, and then the actual payable actions at the end, which are the events. You can then filter on exactly the best performing keywords on the final payable actions that are coming through as an event. You can also do a negative keyword list here. So if you find keyword, like if you find a lot of spend happening on keywords that are not leading to your final payable events, then essentially you can add that to the negative keyword list and ensure that you're not showing or not spending money on actions that don't drive value. All right, moving on to the next one, which is the campaign IDs. So yeah, so if you send campaign IDs, you can also see that, and then you can see the conversion rate and see which campaigns are performing better as well. And this is a report from Google where you can actually see the different like the different search terms and the performances. And in the reporting of Google, you'll also be able to see the conversion value that we have passed to them. So you'll be able to see the exact value that is getting to their system. And although Google's algorithm is very powerful and can optimize really well based on this conversion level, you can see that the reporting, the analytics part of it is not as powerful because it doesn't allow you to drill down as much as the Everflow platform. So the drill down reporting that Everflow offers is way more powerful for creating like 5 to 6 level breakdowns. And that's kind of why you can make the same report in Everflow and then get to the same conclusions in a much faster and more powerful way. And yeah, so that's a little bit about this. This is another takeaway from the team that they ended up having to add to their negative keyword lists based on this report, because they saw that they were spending a lot on these keywords, but the value of the conversion was very less. So in the end, they didn't see the point of actually being on these particular keywords. So you can come to the same conclusions as well for your activity. Yeah, that was the end of our reporting section. So I'm going to go back to our presentation here. And just going to make sure we covered all the sections. So we did Google Ads, we did integration and the reporting. Perfect. And now we go to some frequently asked questions. So some of the questions we get are, how does it work when there's a tagging template already existing in the Google Ads you're integrating with, and you're now doing an integration? What happens? So Everflow does not like overwrite your template. We only append to your existing template. The only time we actually overwrite anything in the Google template, in the tagging template, is if those Everflow parameters or the parameters you're setting up in the integration already exist. So for example, if your Google Ad has a UTM source and UTM content in your template, your tagging template, and in the Google integration setup, you're also adding a Google UTM source and UTM content, for example. Then the one that you're using in the Everflow integration will overwrite the one that is in your tag. That's the only time when there are duplicates. As long as you have different parameters being set up in the Google Ads integration to the ones that are in your tagging template, we will not overwrite it. All right. Another one is, how does it work if you have different Google email addresses and you want to authenticate different email addresses with your partner account? Essentially, right now, the connection works with one Google account. So as long as you have your one Google email address and authenticate that with your Everflow partner account, multiple campaigns under that email address will be connected and shown to you. If you do have a situation where you have multiple Google email addresses and you want to connect it to Everflow, please reach out to our support team. We are gathering feedback for the next version of the Google integration. And if that is something we see as a request from a lot more clients, then we are open to supporting that in the future. And then the last one, report postbacks. Normally, every partner account or every Everflow client account has a specific report called partner postback reporting or postback reporting that shows the data going from Everflow to any third-party platform like Facebook or another system. For the Google integration, that report will not hold the conversions. For any conversions that are going to Google, you have to check the logs within that Google integration to see the successful conversion that is being sent to Google. Yeah, so those were like some of the more common questions we've come across. And then, yeah, a quick summary. Everflow platform allows you to integrate with Google. You can track your keywords placements and partner activity inside of Everflow. We pass those conversion and events into Google Ads for optimization of Google. And we ourselves, our marketing team has been using this very successfully, and they've seen like a 91% increase in the quality of their leads with only a 9% increase in budget. So this is really a pretty big win for our internal team, and we also wanted to share that with you. We hope that you also see similar increase in performance and quality of your campaigns by using integration. All right, so I know we're a little bit out of time, so I am just going to look at the questions. Doesn't look like we have any open questions at the moment. But if you do see that you have any questions in the future, feel free to reach out to the Everflow clients that you're working with, or the support team if you are an Everflow client yourself. We're happy to help you. And also, if you run into any technical issues, please let us know. We're happy to help you with the setup as well. Thank you, and have a great week ahead. Bye.